All right, hey guys, this is Ron from Rockstar Paint Class. Welcome. Today we're going to be painting something I like to call Belladonna, a tribute to the legendary Stevie Nicks. As always, we're going to be using our alpha acrylic paint. So in your kit, you have all the paints that are necessary to complete this portrait with me. Like as any portrait we paint, you're more than welcome to follow along with me, or you can take what we've got here and make your own. Art is something that should be kind of organic, and there's really no rules to it. So I encourage you to think outside the box. What I've done is I've given myself a little plastic canvas because I'm going to hold the paints as I demonstrate how to do this. But at home, you can take your paint and just squirt it on a little paper plate or a regular plate, anything you've got that'll give you a nice smooth flat surface. You're going to want to spread the paint around a bit so the colors don't touch. Give yourself a little room to work with that. I've got a little cup of water as well to rinse out my brushes, which, by the way, we have two. I've got a wedge brush and a finer brush for detail you'll have in your kit as well. And I'll show you how we're going to use those. And then I also have a couple paper towels to clean the brushes off in between colors where I want to. So as you see the canvas, obviously the black has already been given to you, as is with all of our pre-made canvases for the classes. The technique I like to use is I'm going to cycle through my colors, starting with the lightest color as it being yellow and going to the darkest color being black. We might go multiple passes of colors. If the colors don't go on very opaque or solid, we're going to go back and heavy those up. So again, follow along with me if you want, or take this as an opportunity just to have a canvas and paint on your own. So starting with yellow, and I don't use a lot of paint on my brushes to start with, all right? I want to kind of feel out where I'm going to put the paint, and also I want the paint to dry fairly quickly. So the heavier the paint, the longer it's going to take to dry, and the harder it is to fix a mistake if I want to change that. So what I'm going to do with yellow is I'm going to come down right over here on the side of her face. All right, and you'll notice I don't care if I get my color on the black. I have black, and I'll go and I'll fix that at the end. I can tighten that line up. So I'm going to want to take that yellow and run it right around the perimeter of her face. And you'll notice there's not a lot of paint, or color rather, on her face. All right, and that's done on purpose. We don't want to load up her face and give a lot of shadows. Obviously, she's a woman and she has there's softer features where we don't want to show too much shadow because that'll make her face look harder and more rigid. Okay, so I'm going to take this yellow, and you'll see how I'm painting this. Again, not a lot of paint on the brush, and I'm just kind of pushing the paint into the canvas, making it almost wispy. And I'm going to bring that down, straight down from this line here to indicate where her hair would be. Okay? Again, I'm not looking for solid yellow here. I'm just giving an indication of where I want the hair to flow. All right, you'll notice on the if you're going from the original illustration that came with the kit, you'll notice that there's a lot of color in the hair. So we're going to want to layer that up. So don't get real caught up into how much yellow or how little yellow you have. We just want to show that there's yellow in there. All right, and you'll see the canvases come through. I'm not concerned about that at this time. Same thing over top of her eyes here. We'll start up where the hat is and push that yellow down into her face. Okay? Stopping at the eyes. Again, we're indicating hair, so think about it. Her hair doesn't fall past her eyes. So make sure we stop at the eyes with that color. All right, and I pushed it right up into the black. Same thing around this side. Bring that down. I need a little more paint. We'll do the same thing on the other side with her hair. Give yourself that outline to start with, and we'll take that right down into where the black meets. And then come down this side. Okay, we're going to leave the center in the middle there. All right, and you can actually hear how dry the brush is. It's just indicating color on the canvas, and I'm just pushing that yellow in there. All right, I kind of like how it gives me that almost like a gradient of yellow when I'm actually not even trying to blend it. Okay, sort of like that. All right, what I want to do now is, again, not a lot of paint on the brush. All right, I'm going to indicate where her nose would be. So we're going to start with the corner of her eye, and I'm going to come straight down to that nostril. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Corner of the eye, straight down. All right, so you got a little parallel lines that go down the center of her face there. And then what I want to do is I want to come underneath the nose and give an indication of color under there as well. From corner to corner on the lip, we're going to indicate the outline of her bottom lip. So corner to corner, and give me that little arch that makes up her bottom lip. All right, I want to take yellow and I want to color in those eyelids. There's not a lot on this side, so just indicate that little section there. And then let's just indicate a little bit of yellow underneath the eyes. All right, put a little more hair over here. All right, so we ran the perimeter of her face. All right, under the lip, down the sides of her nose, and then up above her eyes for now. Lastly, what I want to do with yellow is up into the hat. I want to indicate there's a highlight going on in that hat. All right, so let's do this. A little bit of an indication there, and then the brush, make it almost dry. All right, and then we'll just put some color like this. All right, let the brush do the work. Just indicating where there's some color here. All right, keep it sort of like a dry brush, we'll call it. It'll give you that scratchy little texture look to it. All right, so I'm going to probably add some more yellow to this, but for the time being, let's let that set up. Okay, get your canvas looking like this, and then I want to let that yellow dry before we touch the next color. So give it a couple minutes to let that set up, and then we'll come back and we'll do the next color, which is going to be orange. Okay, so the yellow is probably pretty good and dried now, and you give a little touch to it to make sure it is. All right, and I haven't cleaned my brush off because I'm going to use orange as the next color, and these colors kind of complement each other. So I just basically pulled all the yellow off the brush with the paper towel and just left whatever was on there, let it go. Okay, so I'm going to come in with orange now, and over top the yellow, I want to give a line to indicate the outline of her face over here, shadow side of her face. So I did not cover all of the yellow, but I just put some orange over top of it, all right, just to give a little bit of shadow down that side of the face. All right, I'm going to do the same thing over top of her eyes, where we indicated that hair. Let's just push a little bit of orange into that as well. All right, and indicate where the hair would be. I know I don't have much of it, but indicate like if the hair, she had the bangs, they roll from the center and they push outward. Okay, so do the same thing with the strokes of your paint. You know, so from the center, the paint's going to go in the other direction. It always points in the opposite direction of where it's coming. Right, so give it the same thing. And again, you can see the streaks of the canvas. I'm not using a lot of paint. You know, up there as well. And then we'll do the same thing into her hair. You know, longer streaks now. We're showing texture in her hair. All right, so let's give some longer streaks of orange. And again, you're not trying to paint this to cover all of the canvas. Let some of that canvas come through. All right, just to give you, you can almost see where I've left the white, where the hair is starting to show it's got depth and texture. All right, so you want to have it very streaky at this point. You know, keep that like that. We'll do the same thing over here. You know, don't be afraid to go over top that black. All right, and we're indicating hair. You know, you let the brush do the work. No reason to, you're not painting a house, so don't go heavy and, you know, heavy strokes. Just let the brush go light and let the canvas flow through it. I'm going to come over tight to her face too, because obviously, if you think about it, that's where the darker colors will wind up, closer to her face. That's the darker part of her, where the shadows lie. So we're going to heavy it up with the other heavier colors as it gets closer to her face. Okay. Alright, so the hair should start to look something like that. Alright, I want to go in here now, and above those eyes where I had yellow, I'm going to start indicating some orange. Alright, just a hint of orange over top those eyelids. Again, don't be afraid to go over the black, because we're gonna fix that later. Alright. In the corners of her eyes, where there'd be a shadow, we'll go some orange there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take orange and I'm going to fill in this bottom lip for now in orange. Alright, right up to that line where you made the yellow. And I'm letting some of that yellow stay, so I'm not completely covering that bottom lip where I had the yellow. Let the yellow stay along the bottom there. I want to keep that. Okay. Alright, I'm going to take some orange where we put the hat. The yellow in the hat, rather. And I'm going to indicate some oranges in there as well. Okay? Take it all the way up to the top. It's kind of nice where it touches that orange. And again, you can see how soft this is. Alright, if you have too much paint on the brush, you're not going to get that effect. So keep the paint light, and it'll allow the canvas to come through, and it gives a nice painterly effect, you know, without too much effort. Alright, I think I want a little more orange in this hair over here. I'll fatten that up a bit. Same thing over top. Indicate a little more hair. It'll cover the top of her, above her eyebrows. All right, let's keep that up there with color. All right. And then lastly for now, underneath the nose where we indicated that yellow, let's put almost a little tiny V of orange. Alright, we're going to go nostril to nostril. That'll give us the shadow underneath her nose. Okay, so get that little bit of orange under there as well. Alright, we got it on the lip, over the eyes. Alright, the hair and the hat. Okay, so let's get up to speed with that. Get as much orange as you want on the canvas there. And then we're going to go back. We're actually going to hit more orange later. But for the time being, I just want to get that bottom coat, so to speak, on. So let that set up and dry, and then we're going to move on to our next color. Alright, so now that the orange is pretty much dry, again, I'm not cleaning my brush off too much right now. So I'm just going to wipe the orange off and then get a little bit of red on here. And I want to use the red fairly sparingly at first because it's a really strong color. So I'm just going to indicate some red. So you can follow along with me here, mostly in the hair. Alright, it's just going to start to define some of the hair. And you can see what I'm doing with the side of the brush. Alright, I'm using the thinness of the wedge brush, alright, to give me sort of like the different layers of hair, so to speak, the individual strands of hair. Alright, and I want to start to indicate where there's like heavier patterns of color in her hair. You know, and there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It's just you're putting color over top of something, hair in this case, which is very thick and dense. So you can't really mess it up as long as you're following the pattern that her hair would flow. Alright, and I'm going to bring that tighter to her face over here. Now right along that jawline, and get some of that red in here as well. You know, and again, you can hear the scratching of the brush on the canvas. It's telling you there's not a lot of paint on that brush. All right, same thing down here where the longer hair would start to curl at the bottom. Let's give an indication of that as well. You know, maybe a little wave to her hair. All right, we'll do the same on the other side. Tighter to her face, more color where it's tighter to her face. And again, I'm just indicating color in the hair. So you're going to get the very streaky look to it. You know, when you're doing this, you want to make sure, you know, step back a bit and make sure you've got the colors moving around the canvas, all right? You don't never want to isolate color in one section. So as you're working, you know, it's okay to step back. I mean, that's really, nobody's supposed to look at art this close. So step back and make sure you've got a decent amount of color uniform around the canvas. You know, so like we want to put some above her eyes as well. All this needs to continue to flow to make a decent composition. All right, I'm going to put some red in the hat as well up here, where we had the orange and the yellow. Let's put a little bit on this side too. It's a little darker of a color, so indicate a little bit of a highlight on that side as well. Maybe some over here. All right, and then lastly with the red, I want to color in this bottom lip, but let's not go the whole lip. What I want to do is leave a little bit of a highlight in the middle. So what I've done is I've created a line along the top where the black is, and then a line along the bottom, and then just feather it a bit. Okay, so we made the lip look round. Okay, you left that orange in the middle. Okay, top and bottom of the lip, and leave that little bit of orange in the middle. All right, that'll make her lip look round. Okay. Maybe a little bit of red in the corners of her eyes up here to give some color there as well. All right, so that's the red for now. Let's let that set up for a few minutes, let it dry, and then we'll come back and we'll start to define more color. All right, so now that we've got the red on there, okay, before I start getting into my heavier, darker colors, I want to go back now. Remember I told you earlier we're going to cycle through colors. I want to go back with yellow. Okay, now that some of those other complementary colors to yellow are on there. All right, so I want to just strengthen up some of my yellows, all right? And I'm going to start up here with the hair, over top the red. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm really going to fill in more of the canvas with color. So where you did leave some of that whiteness in the canvas, now's the time to come back and heavy some of that up. All right, and it's mostly going to be in the hair. All right, so I'm going to start filling in those voids, so to speak. All right, and everybody's is going to be slightly different depending on how you put color in the hair. But you'll notice the orange is a little translucent, and it's going to allow that other color, the other red and orange, to come through underneath the yellow. So that's what you want. You're just basically filling in areas of color now. Right, so you can almost see there's that canvas right there is almost completely covered in color, and there's 3 colors on there, but it's still fairly light. All right, we're going to do this on the other side as well. You know, not a lot of paint, but you're just going to fill in those areas where the white was coming through. I want to cover them up now. A little stronger yellow on the hat, and you can see over top it obviously comes through. And it's heavier. Yeah, maybe we'll put a little bit on that side too. Okay. I'll cut that out, but my fucking computer went dark. So the last thing I want to do with yellow now is go back a little bit more into that skin. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken a lot of the yellow off the brush, and you could even like dab it on the paper towel, which I've got here in my hand if you want. And I'm going to start with this side over here with her face. And I'm just going to push this yellow into this canvas. I want to extend that cheek. All right, and by using the side of the brush like this, it's allowing me to feather that paint so it doesn't come off really, really heavy. All right, I'm almost giving her that like a blush along her cheeks. Okay, and you can hear the paintbrush grinding into the canvas. All right, see how that feathered? It's not a lot of paint. If there's too much paint, you won't be able to do it. And then where you're at, you want to soften that line, just continue to push that brush into the canvas. Don't add paint to the brush. All right, and that'll soften those cheeks. All right, we're going to do the same thing around the side of her nose, just to soften that area down the side where those shadows are. All right, and I'm going to go under the nose the same exact way. All right, and that'll give a little bit of an indication of color under there. And if you go too heavy, we can add white, which I'll probably do on mine in a minute. Okay, but you can see where it starts to take a little bit of shape of the face, and you're just pushing that color around. All right, we want to come under the eyes a bit. All right, where she'd have a little bit of shadow under her eyes. Okay, I also want to put a little bit of that down here in her chest in between the hair. All right, again, just an indication. Continuing on with the yellow. All right, again, I'm just going to soften some of this yellow up. All right, put some more down here in her chest. And again, I'm going to leave this very streaky for now. We're going to come and we're going to go over this at the end. But I just want to put color on here. Like we said, we're just blocking in color. Okay? All right. So let's rinse that yellow off. All right, I'm using the water now to rinse the yellow off. And what I want to do now is I want to grab a little bit of this purple. And let's put some purple in her hair, see how that's going to look. All right, and again, you're going to notice the purple goes on very, very translucent. All right, it almost doesn't even look like it covers. So let's just get it on there, and then what we can do is go back afterwards and go over top of it to strengthen it up. But this is going to start to give us some darks, all right, in her hair to really show depth. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just picking some areas where I think I want to show an indication of you know, a darker color where that hair would be flowing, so we want to get some streaks of that in here as well. And bring it right up into the hat. Some down the middle here. Again, just keep that pattern of hair going. You know, you're always going to want to have it flow in the one direction. You know, and then tighter on the inside here, because that's where the heavier shadow would be. We'll go right up to where we got that orange in her face and just run a little bit of purple line down there, right along that cheekbone. All right, same thing on the other side, right down the edge there. See, and it's just making it a little bit darker. It's not really heavy, but it's just showing us where where the light and the dark of her hair would be. Okay. Again, you follow that hair pattern. Heavier on the inside. And then we'll get a nice dark edge over here too. All right, let's not forget above the hair above the eyes, there's going to be some darks and lights in that as well. So I'll get that going there too. All right, so again, keeping with the purple. All right, we'll put some up here in the hat. And what I want to do as well is right underneath that black line in her eyes, let's make a little bit of a shadow in the white of her eyes. All right, it's subtle, but when you step back, you're going to see that, and that really gives her eye, you know, that shadow in her eye, and it'll make it look like a human eyeball. All right, a little bit of indication underneath the eye for shadow. All right, and we're going to do the same thing like we did before under the nose with the orange. We're going to go over top the orange and make that little V. Okay, so again, you can always darken it up by going over it again and again. All right, that'll give us a little bit more depth to her face at this point as we continue to paint in the other colors. All right, so again, let's get the purple in there, kind of how I've indicated here. It's just their randomness in the hair, some accents on the face. And what I want to do now is let the purple set up and dry, and then we're going to come in with some blues and we'll add more accents to that. And then I want to go back and soften more of that yellow, because again, this, you know, a woman's face, you kind of want to make it this soft. We don't want to see any hard edges. So some of the paint lines I want to make softer, and I'll do that with the lighter colors like we did in the earlier stages. All right, so let that purple dry, or add some more purple if you want at this point in time in the hair, just to make sure we've got that pattern going. All right, so even without cleaning the brush again, one of the next colors I want to get on here is this blue, and the blue is really nice and bright. It's going to make a big difference, you know, when we start adding that on there. But again, we don't want to go crazy with it. We want to use it kind of sparingly, because you can see how dark it is. All right, so I'm going to use it in the hair, and I'm going to basically keep this blue almost where I have the heaviest shadows, even where they're blacks, because that's just going to make a very prettier shadow as opposed to painting it with black. So I'm going over some of the black, and I'm going to keep this going up the side of her hair like this. All right, into the hat a bit. All right, so you can see how that kind of makes a really bold statement there. Let's get a little more blue there. And the blue on the yellow is going to give you a green, which is obviously, if anybody's taken art class, they know blue and yellow make green. But you're going to get almost a free color out of it, because in theory we're not painting with green, so that's going to give you a little bit more dimension. All right, and I'm going to take this right along that dark rim of her face, right around the outline there. Okay, I want to come down here and down on the bottom where there's going to be heavier shadow. We'll put that down on the bottom as well. And again, you can see how the blue's starting to almost give me that green tint. Okay, a little more over here where her hair meets her chest. All right, there should be a shadow there. I'm going to do a little bit up here on her hair as well. I'll let that come right over top that eye where the hair would hang over her eye. All right, the hat, like we did earlier, same side of the face, run it right down that side there. All right, that'll keep her her cheek line there in check. All right, keep that, make sure that line stays. That's going to be an important one. But you can get a little bit of color into that hair off of that. Right down the center there. All right, some down here in the bottom would be nice. So that's kind of cool. You see what happens is when you start off heavier and you just fade it out, it really brings out the colors underneath it. So it almost adds a green. I can see more purple, and then the red becomes dark. Okay, so that's kind of a very cool effect just by adding one color. Yeah, and then just feather it out as you get down towards the bottom. All right, and because it looks really cool, let's put some blue over that black. And again, you might not notice this until you step back, but once you step back, you'll really see that blue in the black on the canvas. It looks really cool. All right, so we'll add a little bit over here as well. And again, you can hear, oops, went a little outside my lines. You can hear I'm just pushing that color around. So just to get it into the black, it looks kind of neat. Maybe I'll put a little of that under her chin as well. All right, something like that. Let's get a little blue over her eyes. I think I want a little more in the hair. All right, so let's let that dry, and then right after we get done letting that dry, what I want to do is I want to clean the brush off, because I'm going to go back into my yellows and oranges one more time, and I want to fix a little bit of the stuff going on in the face and add a little more dimension to the hair, and then we'll go on to black, and that'll really tighten a lot of this up. So finish with the blue, and then make sure you clean the brush off really good. If you have a faucet, you might want to rinse it under the faucet to get the blue off there, otherwise you're going to start getting green in your yellow. We don't want that. Coming back now, obviously, like I said earlier, we wanted to make sure we get all that blue off the brush. Okay, we're going to come back into yellow. And like I did earlier, I just want to soften some of these lines. You know, heavy up some of the yellow and then soften some of the edges, you know, around her face. Where areas I might have left a little bit of white, you know, I just want to make sure I shore them up with color. All right, the side of her nose, the cheeks, you know, and again, even in the hat, a stronger presence of yellow is what I'm really looking for right here. You know, in the hair, now is also a nice time to put that back over top the blue that we did. You know, you'll see more of a hair streak, so to speak. Anyway, right here where the hat meets the hair, that's a nice little highlight there. You want that as well. Up top here. Just little wisps of yellow is going to make that hair seem more rounded. You know, this is nice too. It's time to hit it around the edges where you can show how the hair has got like no distinct pattern to it. It's kind of got a random wispy edge. So hit that along the black as well. You know, soften the edges up. All right, so since there's not much paint on the brush there, what we'll do is we'll just take the brush and rinse it in the water for a little bit, let that sit. All right, I'm gonna grab my, my finer brush, and what I wanna do now is I wanna hit a little bit of black, and I just wanna start cleaning up some of these edges. All right, I wanna bring these black lines back that I actually overpainted a bit. You know, especially around the eyes. I want to have her eyelid, that line back. I want to see those lines again. So if you did like I did and painted over top of them, now's the time you're going to want to go back and put them back. You know, don't paint over top of if you put color over top of your black, don't paint over top of that. Just give it an accent, especially like here, like the nostrils on her nose. You're going to want to bring those back. You know, same thing on the lip. You know, that black top lip, you're going to want to give that strong line back again on that. All right, even more so the face. Okay, you really want to keep, you know, Stevie has a very round face, but in this particular picture, her jawline is pretty much tight around the sides. So you're going to want to bring that line back. Okay, if you have a soft edge there, it's not going to look right. So you see where I overshot it with the yellow paint, I want to harden that line back up again. You know, the same thing down this side. Get that nice black line back there. Alright, same thing with here. I've got a little too much paint on the black, so I want to bring that shadow back. Strengthen that up. And fix any of these little imperfections. Okay, and once I've done it with the fine brush, I'm going to take the heavier brush that we had soaking. All right, let's dry that out, get the dirty water off of it, and let's put some black on that brush. And now I want to go into the hair with a heavier stroke, all right, and hit some heavier darks in that hair now. You know, now's the time we're really going to start to define that hair, you know, especially down around the bottom here where it would basically, you know, fade off into the black of her shirt. So let's bring some of that dark color in the bottom. Same on the other side. And I give you just random color in the bottom there. All right, just to show where the hair is really starting to get some of that color of that shirt through it. Even up in the bangs, you still want some darks. And what I want to do too is go back and give me that nice hard line there where her hat would be. You know, where again I've overshot it with color and paint, so obviously the hair would not violate that hat line, so we want to bring that hat line back. You know, so give yourself a nice hard black line up top there. Maybe a little bit in the hair there. All right, and then lastly, I mean, this is the easy part now. So where your other brush was soaking in the water, rinse that black paint off the brush, you know, as well as you can. Clean that off there. And let's go into the white that you have on your palette. All right, dip the fine brush in the white. What I want to do is right in the eyes, I want to put these little white dots in her eyes, okay? Give ourselves a little, that actually gives her life. Same thing in the lip, just a couple little blobs of white in the bottom lip, shows a highlight on the lip. And then what I'm going to do is little wisps of white in the hair. Ever so random, and just a few of them, just to give me a couple pieces of highlight in that hair. I don't want to put a lot. But just every so often, a little bit of white. And that'll really make the hair pop. And you can see it's just a slight indication of a highlight. Whoops, a little too much there, but we can fix that. Okay. All right, I think it's pretty much getting there. You know, you can go back now even with the white and clean up a couple of the lines that you might have had that you got a little bit more dirty on the face if you didn't want it that way. You know, the paint sometimes the colors can mix and make it a little dirtier. So the white will go back and clean that up. You could even hit some white highlights on the hat. Nothing wrong with that as well. That's kind of cool. Okay, but take your time. I mean, you guys got the paint, you've got everything you need. You can continue painting on, you know, take it to as far as you want or consider it done. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.